big part of the agenda. When I say we're going to have a very aggressive first 100 days agenda, we got a lot of things still on the table.
No Obamacare?
No Obamacare. Yeah, the ACA is so deeply ingrained. We need massive reform to make this work, and we got a lot of ideas on how to do that.
Central to this campaign. And the hope is that it resonates in states like this one, in battleground Arizona. You know, when President Biden won in this state in 2020, it was just by a little more than 10,000 votes, a remarkable feat for a Democrat. Hadn't been done since Bill Clinton in the 90s. And it was due in part to the winning Biden coalition that include Latino and Native American voters. And so what we see from the Harris campaign is them trying to replicate that strategy, this multiracial coalition, but also running on the strength of this argument of reproductive rights. Los Tigres del Norte, excuse my Spanish, it's the best I could do. They're performing tonight here in Phoenix, and then later on she's going to be joined by Jennifer Lopez in Las Vegas. And you know, the way that she's messaging to these Latino voters about her opportunity economy, for instance, it's very much grounded in talking about the family. So clearly she's trying to make the cultural connection there. And I'll end with this, Jim. I'm very curious to see how she talks about the issue of immigration in this border state. You know, she often pushes the bipartisan border enforcement bill that doesn't include a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants in it. But you have immigrant organizers here on the ground that are canvassing for her, working on her behalf, and she'll have to speak to those communities as well. Jim?
Yeah, and the Harris campaign with that out, that Spanish language ad out this morning, targeting those comments about Puerto Rico made at the Madison Square Garden rally. And Kristen Holmes, your response to what we just heard from the vice president, they obviously saw a moment to sort of shift the narrative, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, they saw the same moment that Donald Trump saw, right? I mean, for 3 days, we talked about the jokes that were told at that Madison Square Garden rally, the vile, racist jokes leading up to it. Then the narrative was flipped because Joe Biden had that gaffe referring to Trump supporters, however you want to break it down, as garbage. They seized on that. And now you're seeing Kamala Harris take to the press to reiterate the remarks that and repeat the remarks that Donald Trump said last night. And there's a reason that they're all doing this. They want to amplify what the other side is saying. Kamala Harris wants anyone who wasn't paying attention last night to know exactly what Donald Trump said at that rally. The best way to do that isn't necessarily always just through social media and cutting clips, but also by holding a mini press conference in order to pay attention, to shine a light on those remarks. And as Eva said, a lot of this is reaching out to a place where they feel comfortable. They are still trying to secure as many women voters as they possibly can. Donald Trump has a problem with women. Kamala Harris has a problem with men. They are trying to get as many of their demographic that already support them out to the polls as quickly as possible and get them revved up so that they actually show up either for early voting or on November 5th.
Harris is also seizing on House Speaker Mike Johnson's vow to overhaul, I should say, health care. Overhaul, I think, might be how Democrats feel about it, though, a little bit. Johnson on video telling supporters no Obamacare if Trump wins the presidency. Here is what Vice President Harris said about that.
He's like, oh, I didn't mean it. I might have said it, but I didn't mean it. Good stuff.
He has made dozens of attempts to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And now we have further validation of that agenda from his supporter, the Speaker of the House. And what that would mean for the American people is that insurance companies could go back to a time when they would deny you coverage for health insurance based on pre-existing conditions such as you being a survivor of breast cancer, asthma, diabetes. Healthcare for all Americans is on the line in this election as well.
It's important to give viewers the context for the comments that Johnson made, so let's actually play them now.
Healthcare reform is going to be a big part of the agenda. When I say we're going to have a very aggressive first 100 days agenda, we got a lot of things still on the table.
No Obamacare?
No Obamacare. Yeah, the ACA is so deeply ingrained. We need massive reform to make this work, and we got a lot of ideas on how to do that.
CNN chief congressional correspondent Manu Raju spoke to Johnson about those comments. Also, the anchor of Inside Politics Sunday will update that intro. Manu, what did Johnson say?
Yeah, he claimed that they don't want to repeal the Affordable Care Act at all, even as Republicans, of course, spent years trying to kill the signature health care law under the Obama administration. But a much different tune yesterday. I caught up with him as he was stumping in New York, and he made clear that they don't plan to go after the ACA. At least that's what he said. If the Republicans keep the House and Trump becomes president again.
Yeah, and that's my question. So how much are you talking about what you will do if you're in power? And does that include repealing the ACA?
No, look,
not repealing the ACA.
No. This has been ascribed to me. That is not what I said. You can pull the recording of the event in Pennsylvania. That's not what I said. Look, we are laser focused on improving healthcare as we are every area. We need
no, come on. Who would do such a thing?
We need greater access. We need lower
Stop
costs.
it.
And there are ideas on how to do that. That's what I was referring to, and that's what President Trump wants to do as well.
Because you haven't had a plan for many years.
Well, no, we do have plans. I mean, when I was chairman of the Republican Study Committee, it's the largest caucus of conservatives in Congress. We had we published a whole booklet, and I was the leader of all that. We have a Docs caucus. They have lots of ideas that are published and prepared. So there are lots of ideas there. We'll put it all together in the final playbook.
But it just shows you how concerned Republicans are about these comments about Obamacare being an issue this late in the campaign. Trump himself posted on his social media page about Harris's comments seizing on Johnson's initial calls for major changes to Obamacare. Trump says what Kamala is saying is that I want to end the ACA.
I never mentioned doing that. Never even thought about such a thing. That's so funny. Because if I recall, Donald Trump ran on destroying Obamacare. In 2016. So that's interesting what he's saying. He's never done that. I don't know about that. He definitely has done that, actually. Not only has he done that, he's tried to do it and failed to do so because of the maverick himself, John McCain. And he shit on John McCain for that, like a lot. She also said, I want to end Social Security. Likewise, never mentioned it or thought it. Okay, to be fair, he hasn't actually talked about ending Social Security. He has defended that. She is the one that wants to end Social Security, and she will do it by putting the millions of migrants coming into our country into it. Kamala is a liar. Everything that comes out of her mouth is a lie. Made up fiction.
He never mentioned doing that, never even thought of such a thing. So I guess we should rewind to the first Trump administration, the first 2 years under Donald Trump with Republicans in control of the House and the Senate. They tried very hard to appeal Obamacare. There was, of course, that infamous moment on the Senate floor where John McCain joined with a couple other Senate Republicans with Democrats as well. You see the thumbs down there on the Senate floor. They killed a partial repeal of Obamacare, and Trump spent years berating McCain over that. To this day, still does. And why did John McCain vote against that? Because they did not have a plan to replace it at the time, and they still don't.
Going back to Johnson's comments, Manu, was he trying to say that when somebody asked no Obamacare, did he mean no, we're not touching Obamacare?
It's a little unclear. He was sort of taking questions from the crowd and seemed to be getting energized by the crowd's enthusiasm about all of it. But it's a difficult thing because they've spent years campaigning against Obamacare, but now those provisions are very popular.
New Elon Musk reportedly worked without authorization in the U.S. in the 1990s. Experts in immigration law say that if he lied about that as a part of the immigration process, he could be denaturalized and open to criminal prosecution. Oh my God, stop. I will nut. I will fucking nut. I will nut. Like I said, I am anti-deportation except for one man, and that is Elon Musk. Okay? I am anti-deportation except for Elon Musk. Oh my God. Get him out of here. Get him out. Deport his ass. can't believe they dropped this a day before No Nut November. Yeah, they want you to nut freely before No Nut November. Poll results on Elon getting deported. I said this before. If Kamala Harris said Elon Musk will get deported if I win, this would be the results. Okay? Maybe like Florida would be the only place. That would be... It's true about Musk. It's true about Musk. See the full story? He never registered at Stanford. Yeah, we know this already. I've talked about this a lot.
Popular. They don't want to be talking about this point. And as you heard from Johnson there, he told me they're not going to repeal it if they stay in power.
Vice President Harris will also be in Arizona and Nevada today after a star-studded rally last night.
After this, we're going to get to Jake Paul, the greatest political theorist of our time, finally doing the brave thing and supporting Donald Trump, which is, of course, very brave.
In Madison, Wisconsin, focused on getting young people to vote. Nancy Cortez was there. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Nate. Here's a stat for you. Harris currently leads among young voters ages 18 to 29 by 23 points nationwide, according to our polling. And so it's in her campaign's interest to try to drive up vote totals in college towns like this one. But young voters are also the least reliable voters. And so last night, the Harris campaign put on a show here in Madison that they're hoping these students will remember come Tuesday. Rally or rock concert? In Madison, Wisconsin last night, the vice president's warm-up acts were famous in their own right. From the folk band Mumford & Sons to singer-songwriter Gracie Abrams. A big draw for some of the University of Wisconsin's 50,000 undergrads.
I have already gone to Memorial Union and voted early for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Come here, let's just meet. Before taking the stage, Harris visited with the Badgers women's volleyball team. In the arena, her comments about reproductive rights got the loudest applause from this young crowd.
The fundamental freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body. I see it in the women who refuse to accept a future without reproductive freedom.
It was her third battleground stop of the day after rallying supporters in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity?
And pitching her plans in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
I will give a middle-class tax cut to 100 million Americans. Enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries.
She also got a surprise boost from a well-known Republican. Former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger announced he's voting for Harris because of Trump's refusal to accept he lost in 2020. Rejecting the results of an election, Schwarzenegger wrote, is as un-American as it gets. Today, Harris heads west to campaign with film and music superstar J-Lo. J-Lo, of course, is one of several major artists of Puerto Rican descent who spoke out on Sunday after a comedian at one of Trump's rallies described Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage. Tony.
Nancy, thank you very much.